Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade has resigned from his position on the 2020 election interference case into former President Donald Trump after a judge ruled that Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis and her office may remain on the case if Wade stepped aside, per CBS News. Wade's resignation came just hours after Judge Scott McAfee laid out two different options that would allow for the continued prosecution of the case against Trump. He wrote in his decision, quote, "The district attorney may choose to step aside along with the whole of her office and refer the prosecution to the prosecuting attorney's counsel for reassignment. Alternatively, Wade can withdraw, allowing the district attorney and the defendant and the public to move forward without his presence or remuneration, distracting from and potentially compromising the merits of this case."
Meanwhile, lawyers for Donald Trump and his co-defendants in the Georgia case told the judge that they want to appeal the ruling, allowing Fani Willis to continue prosecuting the case against them. So the judge said, it's you or you, basically, and Nathan Wade, the alleged former lover of Fani Willis, has decided to step down. So Fani Willis still involved, but that is, that's a win in technically for the people going, saying that this was improper. The judge agreed that, yeah, you can't proceed.
Sure. I mean, it's a win to the extent that you think this is kind of a good faith effort to say that I think that his existence on this prosecution's team biases the case or undermines the case. If anything, it seems to me that Trump is better off with someone who seems to be hired because of his personal relationship as opposed to his talent as a prosecutor or knowledge about this particular kind of case, the type of which he's never prosecuted before in his life. I mean, the irony here would be if Trump gets him kicked off the case and he's replaced by an amazing attorney who is really expert and frankly,
I wonder if Fani Willis is currently dating
shores it up
like that.
LOL. But
it's okay to make fun of her. It's
but I'm not saying, by the way, that this is not when I say good faith, that's not to say that it's not, I think, reasonable and right, and I think professionally well advised for the Trump team to have pursued this, because what they really secured, the real benefit of this, I think, is not getting him off the case, is delaying the case. And that has been a very successful effort. This was one of the cases that Donald Trump was likely most concerned about because it's one of the ones that he cannot pardon himself out of, and which seemed to have a timeline that suggests that it could be resolved before the election and go straight to the heart of not just what happens on 1/6, but the weeks-long alleged plot to overturn the election results.
And involves so many co-defendants with every incentive to offer up information, to flip, turn a state's witness, offer evidence that indicts Trump as the lead and central figure of the effort. So certainly it was the one where he's in the most trouble. This is a self-inflicted wound. There might be a more competent person to handle the case now, but in fact, the delay, I think, is to the benefit of Trump. And there's going to be a further delay because they're trying to appeal the ruling. They want Fani Willis to be barred from being involved as well. So it just, people matter, personnel matters. She ran explicitly on a platform of not sleeping with her subordinates. That was her line. That was a quote we played from her in an interview where she said why you should vote for her instead of her opponent. But here we are in a situation where he was picked seemingly not for reasons of his vast experience. There's some question about the kickback element of it, that he was being paid and then taking her on these trips that he was paying for, and maybe she did in fact pay him back. There's actually been some confirmation of the idea that she carry fat wads of cash in a bag and use them to pay for things. So whatever, maybe she paid back the money, or maybe that doesn't matter. But it just seems like it was not that he was picked for the wrong reason in the first place.
All of this is so unnecessary. Knowing that this is a play for a delay, why they wouldn't have immediately have just had Wade step down is just an extraordinary bungle, it seems to me. Now, to be clear, the judge found that the relationship here, the alleged relationship, raised, quote, a significant appearance of impropriety, right? That could be addressed by Wade withdrawing. Now, the Trump team's claim here in their appeal is that the resignation is, quote, insufficient to cure the appearance of propriety that the court has already determined exists, and that if appeal is not allowed now, any eventual convictions could be subject to retrial and overturned later. I understand why it is that they don't want to say throw Fani Willis under the bus. But frankly, given the two options that the judge offered, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to nip this entire thing in the bud,
right.
Move on and move forward. Because even in the best case scenario,
they're already saying we're gonna, if you get a conviction, we're gonna overturn this on this basis.
Even in the best case scenario, let's say Fani Willis's case is successful, Trump is convicted. Let's say it even happens before the election. The public outcry about the legitimacy of this trial, it was always going to be an issue, given the nature of how Donald Trump talks about the legal system whenever it comes up against him. But in particular, this has just thrown red meat to the wolves, and why you wouldn't have as clean a prosecution as you could possibly muster. They're truly still acting like these are the only lawyers left on the planet. And I just don't understand from a strategic perspective why there's been such a commitment to keep them on board.
Yeah, that very much seems to be the case.
Willis in particular has exercised such a poor judgment in the way she's been presenting herself to the public.
As a victim,
framing this as a racial and gender issue. Literally talking from the pulpit at a church about how Black people in particular should come to her defense. When, frankly, if she really believes what Democrats have been saying about the nature of democracy and the harm that Donald Trump could inflict upon marginalized communities and all of those kinds of things, then your malfeasance in the context of this case, which could potentially stop him from doing all of that, is a much greater harm to the Black community than anybody who's attacking you over your improprietous relationship with your coworker and your subordinate.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. This seems like a very stupid situation that Fani Willis created. She created this whole thing. She didn't have to pick him. She could have dated him and not picked him. Like, this is not about her own personal romantic life. It's a situation very much of her own making.
Well, that's what raises the implication of the kickback scheme.
Yeah.
Because it is so... It does boggle credulity. It does the kind of reasoning process is strained, except for the fact that you want to provide financial benefit. It doesn't have to be a kickback, but to provide financial benefit to someone that you are personally entangled with, and to be hiring them on the basis of wanting to enrich your relationship.
That's the sinister. Honestly, it is so dumb that I don't totally discount the possibility of just they were in love or something, and that influenced her to pick him because she really liked him for this position.
But come on. I have been in love before, but those people aren't necessarily good at my job. You know what I mean? I date people. I dated lawyers.
Oh.
No, yeah. just because I date some housing lawyer doesn't mean he's going to be good as a comms agent. Just because I date some teacher doesn't mean he's going to be good as a comms. Like, that's ridiculous. That's absurd. By the way, our reaction here, it should be noted, is very different than a lot of what's coming out of the mainstream. I saw MSNBC host Simone Sanders defending Fani Willis and kind of taking a victory lap, saying that I'm reading a quote from her from a few days ago.
Oh, that's crazy.
They tried to steal an election, she tweeted. Then they thought they could take Fani Willis out because she had the audacity to seek accountability because ... they tried to steal an election. So framing this as being about, like, Fani Willis is the wrong party because she's prosecuting Trump, as opposed to being someone who is in fact in the wrong. By the way, it can be both, right?
I actually did not see a lot of Fani Willis. I was the opposite. I was going to applaud the mainstream media for not doing that.
Yeah, I don't want to overstate. I don't want to overstate how common Simone Sanders' response is.
Crazy.
But there was definitely, there was at least Simone Sanders who was taking this position.
Okay, wild.
Yeah,
that's a take. That's a take.
Well, let us know what you think about all of this. I don't think I have to wonder too hard. You guys have been very clear about how you're reading this particular situation, but I guess we'll have to pivot to finally covering the substance of this trial going forward. Stick around. We'll have more Rising for you coming up next.